A pop art course. Lawrence Alloway's book influenced me, so I looked at the manhole covers, which were everywhere, and really interesting if one looks down at them. But they really weren't out in the middle of the street too often. Sometimes I'd find a really great one where there were parked cars, and I'd think, oh, if only I could have that car move or, you know, put it in neutral. But I must admit, my children sometimes thought it was crazy, and they tried to hide when they'd see me out there with the paper down and trying to rub the sewer grate.
Now, we've got some of your work here, which aren't really rubbings of the sewer grates, but sort of takeoffs on them. Can you explain a little bit about the work?
Right. One of them, I was upstate in Endicott, New York, and I saw this grate that was really unusual, and I ran back to the house to get a piece of paper and crayon and secured it and began rubbing it. Then when I came back home here, I did a portion of it as a lithograph. I copied the outlines of it and then drew in on the stone with a greasy crayon to capture the image.
You've used other sort of found objects, just things you find around the house.
That led to another thing. In other words, a meat tray. There's so many things that we get that have interesting patterns, and one was a meat tray, and my instructor Dan Weldon said, well, it would work really well, we'll have to smash it though. We ran it through a heavy press, and then when it was smashed we inked it and then transferred that ink to a lithograph stone, and then I worked in a design, and it's called the Grid Experience. And
these designs have shown up elsewhere in your works also, haven't they?
Yes, we have a new print called, it's a collage, a contour collage, and it's based on a space feeling. So I took one of my grates called Grate Number 1, and it became the moon of the Space Girls song. And parts of the grate, the Grid Experience, were around, centered around it, and I enjoyed that play back and forth of old works into my new works.
Now you do some more classic kind of work as well, not just the work on the various patterns and the rubbings of the grates. Can you tell us about one of your latest works?
One of them is called the Sylvan Sage. It was a woodcut that was worked into a very big piece of wood, about 30 inches in diameter. And I actually started with a self-portrait of another artist, Vasari, but it didn't work. After a while, my image it emerged from the wood as his own self, and I called him the Sylvan Sage because he was the prophet of the wood, and that was a woodcut.
Now, you are a reasonably successful artist at this point. You're having your own show, and you say that you are making a fair amount of money from this, and yet you became an artist at an age older than most people do.
That's
How did
right.
that work?
Well, I was an elementary school teacher one time, and I said to the director of art education, Dick Mello, I said, how do I become an artist? What a loaded question. I know now it takes a lot of work and practice, and just don't give up. So he started me on drawing floating objects in space, and then I went from one course to another, adult education. When my children were little, I went to college and had someone else we did equal time babysitting so that we could each do our thing. And I now continue everywhere I can, take courses. I save a lot of books, I read a lot and study, and now I work a lot.
Which means that you are successful if you're working a lot. People are actually buying the works at this point. A lot of women may be inspired by that story, that here you were, not really any training in the area, you just decided you were going to do it, you worked for it, and you are now an artist. How did you work that with kids growing up, with all of the other demands on you? I have an understanding family, and sometimes I just, you know, my goal was over all possessing. It's just there, and it keeps happening, so I keep working, and everybody pitches in a little bit. My husband teases she can find her way to the studio, but not to the kitchen, so it takes me out to eat, so I can keep doing work. Yeah. Now, what is your goal with all this?
My goal is to really make it big in the arts, to have that name make a mark in the world. That's why Mastrangelo. I told my husband I married him for the name.
Well, thank you. We certainly wish you the very best of luck with it. Thank you for bringing all your works in here today and for taking out the time to talk with me.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.